Forestry.
For Port Moody, Coquitlam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The voters of Port Moody, Coquitlam, Anmore and Belcarra have bestowed their faith in me to work on their behalf in this House. I am grateful for their trust and I am here to serve them. I stand on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin, Anishinaabe people. The Port Moody Coquitlam riding is on the unceded traditional territory of the Coast Salish. It's Swale. I extend my gratitude to the volunteers and activists who knocked on doors this election in the wind, rain, and heat during a pandemic, who made phone calls and built signs and delivered them, who stepped up to tell family, friends, and neighbors that better is possible. I also stand in gratitude to those volunteers in 2019 who laid the groundwork that led to me standing here today, and to my family that are by my side every moment. I'm here to tell the stories from the doorsteps. There has been too much loss, too many struggles. One story stands out, a mother who had been intubated from October to December. She lost her businesses. She lost 60% of her lung capacity. But Mr. Speaker, what she said was the hardest part of her COVID journey was that those weeks she had to spend alone in a hospital bed with no human touch, no visit from her children or family, and no one to put a straw to her lips when she was too weak to do it herself. COVID has been hard on everyone. On the doors, I met a high school grad who asked me if he will be able to find a good paying job when he graduates from university. I met a DJ who lost his income and his rental home twice due to the commoditization of housing. And I met an education assistant approaching retirement that was worried her next home would be a tent because the home she lives in is being scooped up by developers and she cannot afford one of the new luxury condos that will take its place. I stand for affordable housing. Too much housing stock has been redeveloped to luxury condos, and the federal government has not invested enough to keep and build cooperative and non-market housing. The most vulnerable are being displaced. It's getting harder and harder every day for people to stay in my riding of Port Moody Coquitlam. Rapid and robust investment in stable, affordable housing is critical to ensure we can all live, play, and work in the communities we call home. I stand for youth who are inheriting a future of uncertainty. Please know, Mr. Speaker, that they are scared of what the future will look like for them. Youth will no longer accept words and intentions. They want action on climate, and they want it now. During this year of heat domes, fires, and floods in BC, youth have taken to laying down in the streets of Vancouver to try to get across to us the urgency of their asks. I stand for people living with disabilities, people living on provincial and federal disability payments where we're already struggling before the pandemic, and it's gotten worse. I have friends in Port Moody Coquitlam, Mr. Speaker, that have not been able to go out into society for almost 2 years because of the risk of their immune systems. For vulnerable people living on such limited incomes, the costs of the necessary PPE alone have caused hardship. At the NDP's urging in last Parliament, the government announced COVID-19's financial support for seniors, students, workers, and businesses. But for Canadians living with disabilities, they've consistently been left behind. There is a lot of work to do, Mr. Speaker, and in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation, we can work together in this House to build a better Canada for all and repair the eroded safety nets that keep food on the table and people in their homes. That work includes enhancements to C2. Lorsque le gouvernement a coupé.
When the government cut support for almost 9,000 Canadians and began clawing back the guaranteed income supplements from seniors and the Canada Child Benefit from parents, well, these Canadians have less money to pay for basic necessities like food.
And these cuts have come at the time of increasing prices because of inflation, rising gas prices, and supply chain issues locally, nationally, and globally. According to the Canadian Food Price Report, a family's annual food expenditures is expected to rise by $695 this year. These increases will be heaviest for those who can least afford them. Already, throughout this pandemic, in Port Moody, Coquitlam, families have relied on the generosity of committed volunteers from organizations like Immigrant Link Society, the People's Pantry, Tri-Cities Mums Group, and also the Share Food Bank. Let me share some alarming statistics from Food Bank Canada's Hunger Count 2021 report. Food bank use increased by more than 20% across Canada since the start of the pandemic. 9% of those that are accessing food banks are seniors, and their rate of increase is far outpacing other age groups. 18% of those accessing food banks are single-parent households. Single-parent households, Mr. Speaker, that need to feed their children. When you factor in the cuts to CRB and the clawbacks to GIS and CCB, the only options for too many people would be to seek help from already stretched food bank charities rather than have the financial assurance the government promised to them during the recent election. The government promised to support people for as long as they needed it. That promise must be kept. So for workers, what workers need now is the extension of the Canada Recovery Benefit to $500 per week, as long as they need it, to ensure no child, no worker, no senior, no person goes without food. And as part of an enhanced C2, 10 days of paid sick leave needs to be extended to all workers. This is essential for every worker in Canada as long as COVID is with us. Mr. Speaker, let me share a story of a young worker in my riding that had to make the impossible choice to go to work sick or to pay their rent. They had done everything right to keep themselves safe from COVID, but they were infected by someone in their own household. Entire households are impacted when one of the working adults is unable to bring home a paycheck. If we want to stop the spread in our community, we must make it possible for all workers to stay home for 10 days without risking loss of income. In closing, Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic is not over. The fourth wave is still hitting hard. We do not know what the impacts of new variants like Omicron will bring, but right now, we know it is not the time to cut supports. Too many Canadians still need this government to help them stay healthy and to make ends meet.
Commentaire, questions.